Hello everyone, and welcome once again to this week's episode of The Monday Melee. I am your intrepid host Josheb, and this week we're going to be reviewing our first ever match on Towers of Doom. We join in the action on Game 2 of Murloc Geniuses vs Tempo Storm during the Heroes Rising tournament. As we join the action, Tempo Storm is fighting from behind and seizes the opportunity to grab a free kill when Faye dismounts to drop a tumor. Because altars fire a bombardment of 1 cannonball per fort in your possession plus 1 for the core, it's extremely important that Tempo Storm either grab a fort to lessen the blow of losing an altar, or grab all the altars going forwards just to stay in this match. So grabbing the fort right here is of tantamount importance to make sure they stay in. Note that they aren't grabbing this fort at a random time. They are aware that the temples are about to spawn and know that Murloc Geniuses cannot hang around to reclaim the fort for themselves. On this map in particular, it can be more helpful to leave an enemy fort on the brink of death rather than killing it outright, so you can quickly take it out before an altar phase and get maximum value. Now the altar phase is beginning, and Tempo Storm gets extremely unlucky as it is a 3 spawn. Fortunately, Soldier is on Falstad and can afford to go solo one altar while the rest of his team can test Murloc Genius's home altar. Initially, there's a little bit of poke back and forth with neither team willing to commit, but that all changes as soon as Equinox manages to land his Ancient Spear on Goku. Raynor responds immediately with a penetrating round stun, and Muradin throws a stun onto Tyrael to prevent him following up as well. However, both Malfurion and Tassadar land their roots and their wall to prevent the immediate retreat of Tempo Storm. A well-timed Phoenix from Kael'thas ensures that they won't be followed up on. At this point, Falstad has landed and is ready to join the fray, and both teams are split into their own respective corners. Muradin has taken the brunt of the damage for Tempo Storm and is being zoned out effectively. In a typical teamfight with health and mana at these levels, Tempo Storm would probably retreat to regroup, but with an altar this important on the line, they have to go for broke. As Tempo Storm re-engages, Equinox realizes his channel is going to be interrupted anyway and decides to go aggressive onto Goku. As a perfectly timed Divine Shield goes out onto Goku, Falstad manages to throw an amazing gust that isolates Equinox and puts him in danger. Seeing how isolated he is, Sonya turns to try and get a 1-for-1 trade on Muradin, but is instead stunned again by an incredibly timed bullseye from Raynor. Still, Sonya almost manages to get the killing blow, but Muradin's Dwarf Toss proves to make Srey a tad too elusive. Tyrael is forced to blow Eldruin's Might to get in range and throw down a Sanctification to save Sonya from the turnaround gank. With Muradin's Dwarf Toss putting him in the backline, Falstad is now Tempo Storm's front line, and Sonya is looking for a protein fix. Fortunately, his barrel roll manages to give him a little time to get away, but not enough as his chicken is skewered and things are looking grim. Uther, however, proves to be excellent at triage, saving his heal for Falstad instead of utilizing it on a nearly dead Muradin. Faye had initially started to channel here, but cancels it upon seeing Kael'thas sticking around to poke. She figures she can get Kael'thas and the altar if she goes to assist Tassadar, whose damage isn't high enough to solo Kael, whose arcane barrier is still readily available. A well-timed force wall resolves KT to his fate, and he goes down throwing bombs as Sonya shows up to make sure he gets buried. However, Sonya's decision to leave the rest of her team to ensure Kael'thas goes down leaves Tyrael and Malfurion vulnerable to Tempo Storm, who have stabilized and are ready to engage once again. Tyrael goes down quickly now that Malfurion is out of mana, and both Equinox and Faye are trying to sneak the respective altars. Murloc Geniuses do have a body advantage right now, and if you asked yourself earlier why someone didn't sneak an altar, you're about to have your answer. Despite Tempo Storm's disadvantage, they're managing to stall, and Falstad immediately realizes Zagara is unaccounted for. A quick flight over cues both players to pop their nukes in a grandiose display of mutually assured destruction. Raynor rejoins the fight, and it is again a 3-on-3. Though the numbers are even, Malfurion has no mana left and is currently serving no other purpose than to take Tassadar's shields and absorb a little damage. Noting that Tassadar has just blown his shield cooldown on Malfurion, Sonya turns her attention towards Goku before quickly dispatching Uther. However, Goku reciprocates with a quick execution on Sonya. Okay, technically Tempo Storm has won this engagement as both the healers are in full retreat, but keep in mind that the objective here is actually to get the altar on Murloc's side. All Muradin wants to do is finish channeling this altar, but Malfurion took Elun's Grace at level 4, and that means that even though he is inside next to his fort, he can still interrupt the channel anywhere around the radius of the altar. In fact, Tassadar and Malf's poke is so strong, they manage to single-handedly hold this altar until Tyrael can come and reinforce them. Muradin and Raynor may not have been able to get this altar, but they have stalled Murloc Geniuses long enough to get the other altar as well. Though 3 on each team are coming back fresh, the people that have marathoned this fight, including Raynor, Muradin, Tassadar, and Malfurion, are running low on both health and mana at this point. Tassadar starts by throwing out an early force wall to try and isolate Soldier, but Soldier's a little too quick and manages to pull back. Though Muradin is the tank, he is the most out of position, and a quick Eldruin's Might forces him into the timeout corner so he can think about what he's done. Murloc Geniuses just does not have the damage to put him away quite yet. However, Kael'thas has plenty of damage. Seeing so many members of Murloc Geniuses stacked together triggers KT's ASMR, and he instinctively throws out a double bomb gravity lapse Phoenix combo, or what I like to call a number 7 with cheese. Tyrael's Sanctification is so quick he actually manages to outpace the talented gravity lapse landing, rendering it absolutely useless. In the relative safety of Tyrael's Sanctification, Malfurion goes ahead and pops Tranquility to top off his team and prepare them for the rest of the team fight. With Tempo Storm backing off, Faye tries the channel, but the Phoenix prevents her from doing it. The Geniuses originally turn their attention to Soldier, but his positioning is so good that they can't chase him without putting Faye in danger. A quick wall puts Kael'thas out of position and provides a new target, but the combination of the Arcane Barrier and the Divine Shield means he's not going anywhere. Tyrael uses Eldruin's Might to teleport behind Tempo Storm, presumably to cut off their escape, but this leaves Malfurion vulnerable and allows Falstad to grab the easy pick. With all the defensive cooldowns used to save KT, Soraya is forced to reassemble as the front line despite his low health to ensure the protection for KT and Falstad from Sonya's wrath, and he succeeds in so much that he dies instead. A quick gust from Falstad basically resets the fight again, but Sonya notices that Falstad now does not have his defensive cooldown and immediately runs to re-engage. With Sonya on Falstad and Tyrael on Raynor, Faye finally gets the time she needs and captures the altar, thus concluding an almost 3-minute marathon engagement. But remember that fort Tempo Storm stole right at the beginning of the clip? That means they only get hit by 3 cannonballs instead of 4, and they have one last shot to win. In this particular episode, we learned more about how to handle the Towers of Doom map than we did about team fighting. Poke cannot be underestimated on this map. The map is small with concentrated objectives, and fights can continue through multiple deaths. Being able to stall while your team reinforces your position is a key element to dominating on Towers of Doom. Tempo Storm drafted mainly for team fighting in this situation, and Murloc Geniuses drafted for poke. Even Murloc Geniuses' tank choice Tyrael has 2 methods of range interrupt. On a related note, because of the small size of the map and the ability to teleport to the center at later levels, having good sustain is incredibly important here. Highly mobile heroes like Falstad mean the ability to stay and soak a little bit longer before you fly down, or to choose to fly to an uncontested shrine and avoid the fight entirely. In fact, the next time Tempo Storm played on this map in this tournament, they chose a different method entirely. KO chose to play the Lost Vikings and continued to soak through several minutes of team fights while his team poked at the altars. The longer the fights went on, the larger their advantage grew, and since Towers of Doom is arguably the most snowbally map on the rotation right now, level advantages are even more impactful. Drawing for poke and sustain will be a key strategy for success when faced with the Towers of Doom map, and you have to draft with that in mind. Lastly, don't forget what we mentioned at the beginning of the video. In this map, I typically see people pushing forts anytime they get the chance, but the advantage to taking a fort is that when you secure an altar, you're going to get an extra cannon shot. If you aren't going to get an altar right away, you aren't taking full advantage of the mechanics, and the enemy team is just going to recapture it anyway. The only other situation wherein you might want to take a fort but an altar isn't up is when you are sure your team can escort the mercenary sappers directly to the enemy team's no man land, since each sapper will leap the wall and score a direct hit on their core. Don't smork the fort, destroy with purpose. Alternatively, you can take forts defensively like Tempo Storm did in this game, wherein taking that center fort meant that they had a little bit more time if they lost an altar. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Melee. Thanks so much for watching. As always, you can find links to the match and all pertinent information in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Don't forget to join us on Twitch as well, and you can check out Josheb.com for all your Josheb gaming needs. For now, I'll leave you with the excellent commentary of Zoya and Gilly, and I will see you next week.
KO did get the one on the right. This is the only one left over here. Nice interrupt from Goku. Murloc Geniuses trying so hard to cap this. Here comes Soldier from the side. Faye's going for the cap. Stray's getting very, very low. 30 seconds on the Avatar. But they do get the enough. Nice double stun. Stray's caught in this corner here. Nice signification coming out from Murloc Geniuses. And I think Tempo has to back over. But no, Ziggs is back in the fight.
Yeah, and Phoenix is still zoning for as long as possible. Soldier dealing a ton of damage to Mad Timmy, who has used Tranquility. Tranquility is down, and Malfurion has fallen. They're looking to take out another member too. They've got the Gravity Labs on top of Koth, and Luxray will go down, but Koth and Equinox take so much damage from the Living Bomb.
Chain Bomb doing so much damage. It's still a 4 vs 4. This is such a tense fight. Faye going for the cap again. Goku going in and gets healed up by the Adrenaline. Gets one more stun onto Faye there. Soldier getting very low. Gravity Labs goes down on the Equinox. Will Faye get the cap? And it looks like she's going to be able to get it. I don't know if that's enough damage for the core though. That's going to be 3 shots going at the core. Will it be enough to end the game? No, it is not. Tempo Storm is still somehow alive. What a crazy fight, Gillyweed.